The stars tore apart above the broken ship as it fell. Flames ate the hull. Alarms screamed, and the human pilot gritted their teeth against the crash. There was no chance of landing clean. Gravity pulled harder and harder until the world below rushed up like a fist. The last thing the pilot saw before impact was a sky of strange color, golden and burning, yet not like any sunset they had ever known. The crash shook the wasteland for miles. Metal screamed as it bent and broke. Then silence swallowed everything. The pilot crawled free from the wreckage, coughing, their suit torn and helmet cracked. Behind them, the ruined ship lay like a carcass on the plain. It would never fly again. The human raised their eyes to the horizon. Towers rose there, not built by human hands. They were tall and jagged, half collapsed, made of stone that glowed faintly as if remembering some long-dead light. The sky above those towers swirled with colors that shifted too slowly to be clouds. Purple veins stretched across gold, and deep inside the glow, something like lightning moved but never struck. With no beacon from Earth, no signal to call for help. The pilot had one choice: walk into that city of broken towers. The streets were empty at first. Dust clung to the stones, drifting with the soft hiss of a dead wind. Then shadows appeared, moving with slow steps. Figures, aliens, they were thin, almost too thin. Their skin stretched pale over sharp bones. Their eyes were dark hollows that caught what little light the sky gave. Some shuffled in silence. Others sat against the ruined walls, not speaking, not daring to lift their heads. They wore cloth that had long since lost its color, clothes that clung to them like rags. The human walked carefully, boots scraping against the stone. The aliens saw them, but none reacted. No one pointed, no one shouted, no one ran. The silence was worse than fear. It was as if they had given up the will to care. Every step the human took echoed too loud. The towers leaned above, shadows bending across the street, and the glowing sky burned on as if mocking the ruin below. The air itself seemed heavy with something unsaid, and then, from the corner of their vision, the human noticed movement. A figure crawled from an alley. It was smaller than the others, its limbs trembling. The alien's head was bent low, body shaking with weakness. Its chest rose and fell as though each breath was a battle. Slowly it staggered closer, dragging itself toward the human. The human stopped. Instinct told them to prepare for a threat, but this creature had no weapon. Only hollow eyes filled with desperation. The alien raised a hand. In its palm lay something that caught the dim light, a coin. It was round, heavy-looking, but carved with lines that glowed faintly. Not gold, not silver. Something stranger, something alive. The alien pressed it into the human's hand before they could refuse. Its skin was cold, almost icy. The coin was warmer, pulsing faintly like the beat of a heart. The human opened their mouth to speak, to ask what this meant. The alien leaned close, lips trembling as it forced out a whisper. Its voice was rough, broken as though unused for years. For your kind, only you can use it. The words struck harder than the crash. The human blinked, startled. What do you mean?" they asked, but the alien gave no answer. Its hollow eyes searched the human's face as if looking for something, recognition maybe, or hope. Then, with sudden speed that its frail body should not have had, it slipped back into the crowd. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. The other aliens closed around it, moving with the same quiet, defeated shuffle, and the beggar disappeared among them like smoke swallowed by mist. The human was left standing in the street. Hand clenched around the coin. They turned it over, studying it. Strange symbols wound around its surface, glowing dimly like embers. It felt heavier than it should, as if gravity itself bent around it. The pulse inside the metal matched the beat of the human's own heart, sinking until they could not tell which belonged to them and which belonged to the coin. A chill crawled down their spine. Why had the alien chosen them? How could it speak their language? Why call them your kind, as if waiting for a human all along? The streets around them were silent once more, but the silence felt different now. Watching, waiting. The other aliens still did not meet the human's eyes, but something in the air had changed. The coin burned faintly against their skin, as though warning them. The human glanced back toward the ruined ship in the distance. No rescue would come. No one knew where they had fallen. Alone, stranded, they had nothing, except this single coin from a dying beggar. The towers above leaned closer, their stone edges sharp against the swirling sky. Shadows stretched like claws across the broken streets. The human tucked the coin into their pocket, but the warmth of it pressed against them, impossible to ignore. They could still hear the whisper. Not from memory, but almost inside their mind. The alien's voice, ragged and soft, repeating over and over, "For your kind. Only you can use it." The words dug deeper with every echo, heavy as fate. The human walked on, unsure of where to go, but certain of one thing. The coin was not just a gift. It was a burden. Somewhere in that ruined city, an answer waited, and perhaps something far darker than an answer. The human's footsteps carried them deeper into the ruined city. The coin still pulsed against their chest where they had tucked it away, a quiet rhythm that refused to be ignored. It was as if the thing were alive, reminding them with every beat that it had chosen them, or perhaps that it had trapped them. The streets narrowed into twisting paths, lined with towers that leaned against one another like broken teeth. The stone was carved with marks, but time and decay had erased most of them. Only faint lines remained, worn symbols that might once have told stories. Now they looked more like scars. The human paused, listening. Silence. It wasn't the silence of a quiet night on Earth. This was heavier. It pressed down on the ears like standing under water. The only sounds were the soft shuffling of the aliens around them. None spoke. None even looked at one another. They moved as though bound by invisible chains, heads down, shoulders bent. When one stumbled, the others didn't help. They only stepped around and kept walking. The fallen alien crawled back to its feet slowly, painfully, but still no voice broke the air. The human's throat tightened. Something was wrong with this place, not just ruined, but broken. Then a sound pierced the stillness, a hard, metallic stamp. The human turned quickly. Down the far end of the street, a patrol of alien guards appeared. They were taller than the rest, their armor black and gleaming under the golden sky. Their helmets hid their faces, smooth and blank except for narrow slits of glowing red. Long staffs crackling with energy were held in their hands. The silent crowd of thin aliens shifted immediately, pulling back against the walls, heads lowering even more. No one dared to meet the guards' gaze. The air thickened with fear. The guards marched in perfect rhythm, the sound of their boots striking stone like a drumbeat. When they passed close, the crowd trembled. One alien dropped a small bundle of cloth it had been carrying, perhaps food, perhaps nothing at all. The guard nearest to it paused. Slowly it bent, picked up the bundle and crushed it in one metal fist. Sparks crackled. The alien who owned it flinched but said nothing. The guards moved on. The human stood frozen, watching. And in that moment, the coin in their pocket grew warm. Not just warm, burning. The heat pulsed hard as if warning of danger. The beat of it raced against their chest. One of the guards turned its head. The red glow of its helmet slit swept across the street. For one terrifying second, the light lingered on the human. The pilot's hand closed over the coin instinctively, hiding it. At once the burning dimmed, though the heat did not vanish completely. The guard did not stop. It turned back and marched on, the patrol fading into the distance. Only when they were gone did the crowd breathe again. Not out loud, no one dared make noise, but their shoulders loosened, and their steps grew less stiff. The human exhaled slowly, realizing they had been holding their breath. Whatever the coin was, the guards knew something. The heat had not been random. It reacted to them, to their presence. Why? The human glanced down the street, then back at the crowd. The aliens still refused to meet their eyes. But there was a shift now, a difference. Some looked from the corner of their vision. Quick glances, as if measuring the stranger among them. Did they know about the coin too? The human moved on deeper into the city. The buildings grew taller, darker. Windows stared like hollow eyes, and broken doors gaped open. The smell of dust and something metallic hung in the air. Here and there, the human saw what might have been marketplaces, empty stalls, broken tables, stone bowls shattered on the ground. Whatever life once filled these streets had long since been drained away. At last, the human stopped at a wide plaza. In the center stood a statue, so tall it reached nearly the broken towers. Its stone face was eroded, but the figure looked proud, standing with arms outstretched. Strange symbols lined its body, faintly glowing, just like the marks on the coin. The human approached slowly. Their chest tightened as the coin pulsed again, harder this time, as though answering the statue's presence. And then, with a soft shimmer, light crawled across the base of the stone figure. For a second, only the human could see it. Lines of glowing script that burned against the surface, forming words in a language not their own, yet somehow they understood. You are watched. You are chosen. Night fell slowly on the alien city. The sky did not darken like Earth's. Instead, the golden glow faded into a deep, unnatural crimson. The towers cast long shadows, and the streets became rivers of black between them. No stars shone above, only that strange sky shifting like liquid fire. The human found shelter in an abandoned building, its roof half gone and walls cracked. Dust lay thick inside, but it was dry, and for the first time since the crash, they could sit down without eyes watching from every side. Still, the silence weighed heavy. The alien crowds had melted away into the night. No voices called, no footsteps echoed. The city seemed dead, yet the human knew it was not. Somewhere out there the patrols marched, the enslaved shuffled, and the whisper of that beggar lingered like smoke in their mind. The human pulled the coin from their pocket. It glowed faintly now, no brighter than a coal at the end of a dying fire. Strange symbols curled across its surface, lines that moved when watched too long. The warmth of it had returned, steady but strong. They turned it over in their palm, frowning. "What are you?" The human leaned against the broken wall, the coin pressed between their fingers. And then, without thinking, they set it against the stone. A shock ran through the wall. The coin burned and light spread like veins of fire across the stone surface. The human pulled back, startled, but the light did not stop. It grew wider, carving glowing lines across the ruined wall until the whole surface shone. And then, words appeared. Not carved, not painted, but alive, drifting across the wall like ink in water. The human blinked. The script was alien, but in their mind the meaning formed clear as speech. Follow the map. Seek the vault. Freedom waits below. The words shifted again, and the wall changed. Now it showed a map, streets winding like a maze, towers like jagged teeth, and beneath them, a network of tunnels hidden deep under the city. At the end of those tunnels, a single mark glowed brighter than the rest. A circle. Their symbol, the human's breath caught, the Freedom Vault. They reached out, hand brushing the glowing map, but the light trembled, rippled, and then vanished. The wall returned to dust and cracks. The only proof of what they had seen was the coin, pulsing hot against their palm. The human stared at it, mind racing. Freedom. A vault. And somehow only they could see it. The beggar's whisper echoed again, filling the silence. "For your kind. Only you can use it." The human paced the broken room, every step stirring dust. Their training told them to think clearly, to focus on survival. Find food, find water, secure safety. But survival alone would not explain why they had been chosen. The city was broken, yes, but not dead. Something was buried here, something the guards wanted hidden. And this coin was the key. The human stopped, hand tightening on the coin. What had the beggar said? "Only you can use it." Why? The alien crowd had ignored the statue. The patrols had not seen the glowing words. The human alone could read the map. It wasn't just a key. It was a message meant only for human eyes. But who had left it? And how had they known a human would come? The questions burned with no answers. But the human knew one thing. Whatever waited in those tunnels, the guards would not want it found. A sound broke the silence. The human froze. From outside, footsteps, heavy, metal. The guards. The human ducked low, moving to the crack of the ruined window. Out in the street, 3 of the armored figures marched past. Their staffs crackled with energy, sparking faintly against the stone. The red slits of their helmets scanned the darkness. The human pressed against the wall, heart hammering. The coin burned hot again, too hot. It was reacting just as before. If the guards came closer, would they sense it? The patrol paused. One tilted its head toward the building. The human held their breath. Long moments passed. Then the guards turned away, their boots echoing into the night. The human slumped against the wall, sweat dripping despite the cold air. The coin cooled, but not completely. It was as though it had a will of its own, guiding, warning, maybe even testing. The human looked again at the cracked wall where the glowing map had been, beneath the city. A freedom vault. That was the first secret. But there was more. The beggar had not chosen them by chance. The coin was not just a tool, it was a call, and somewhere in the depths of this silent world, the answer waited. The human gripped the coin tight. If the guards were hunting, if the crowd was watching, then they would need to move quickly. The tunnels could not remain hidden forever. A decision settled in their chest. Tomorrow, when the crimson sky burned again, they would find the hidden path. They would follow the map the coin had shown. The vault might hold danger. It might hold salvation, but it held the truth, and the truth was worth the risk. Above the ruined city, the sky shifted once more. A ripple of white fire cut across the crimson clouds, silent but blinding. For a moment it painted the towers in ghostly light. The humans stood, coin in hand, watching the heavens blaze. They did not know it yet, but the first secret they had uncovered would lead to others, darker, deeper and far more dangerous, and the coin, the gift of a beggar, was only the beginning. The crimson sky never truly faded. Even at what should have been dawn, the heavens glowed with a low, burning light, as if the world lived under a dying sun that refused to rest. The human rose from their hiding place in the ruins and set out with the coin clenched in their hand. The map they had seen still burned in their memory, streets twisting like veins, tunnels winding beneath the stone city. And at the end, a circle marked the vault. The crowds were back now, shuffling silently along the streets. Their thin bodies moved with the same hopeless rhythm as before, heads bent, eyes avoiding all. The humans slipped among them, copying their silence, moving with the flow. Every so often a patrol passed. The black armored guards did not need to speak. Their presence alone was enough to drive the crowd back against the walls. The human kept their gaze down, hand tight over the coin whenever the patrols came close. The heat in the metal grew when they neared, but the guards never stopped. Hours passed before the human reached the place the coin's map had revealed, a crumbled courtyard at the edge of the city. At its center was a sunken stair, half buried under stone, the entrance to the tunnels. No one else approached it. No alien even glanced at it. They walked past with lowered eyes as though it did not exist. The human hesitated. Then, heart steady, they descended. The tunnels stretched dark and endless beneath the city. Walls carved from stone sloped downward, their surfaces covered with faint scratches, as if countless hands had touched them long ago. The air smelled of dust and something older, ash perhaps, or memory. The human moved carefully, light from the coin guiding them. Its glow painted the walls in a soft pulse, like a heartbeat leading the way, deeper and deeper. At last the tunnel widened into a chamber. The walls here were not blank. They were carved with images stretching floor to ceiling. The human lifted the coin and the carvings came alive. Light traced the lines, filling the pictures with motion and color. Scenes unfolded before their eyes. The first showed the alien people as they once were, strong, proud, their towers whole and shining. They built ships of silver, weapons of fire, cities that touched the skies. Their eyes were not hollow then, but bright. The second scene shifted. A shadow fell across their world. A new race descended from the skies, tall, armored, faceless. The conquerors, the carvings showed battles. The proud aliens fought, but they were broken. Their towers burned. Their voices were silenced. Their knowledge stripped away. Chains bound their wrists and necks, not of iron, but of something deeper, invisible, pressing their spirits down until even their thoughts were shackled. The third carving burned brighter. It showed a star, and from it descended a figure. Not one of the conquered aliens, but something different. Its shape was blurred but unmistakable, human. Around this figure were words glowing with such force that the human felt them echo in their bones. An outsider of flesh and fire will come. They alone will hold the key. They alone can awaken what was lost. The human staggered back, breath-catching. The coin pulsed violently in their palm, burning hotter now, as if confirming the truth of the words. Them, the beggar had known. The prophecy had waited. And the coin was the key. But why humans? Why them of all beings? The carvings gave no answer. They only showed what came next, the lost machines of the ancient people, hidden in the depths of the world, waiting to be awakened. Weapons, knowledge, fire to burn away the conquerors. The final carving showed the enslaved rising tall again, their chains broken, their towers whole. And beside them, the outsider, walking among them not as ruler, but as spark. The coin flared once, then dimmed to a steady glow. The carvings went dark, the walls returning to lifeless stone. The human stood in silence, heart pounding. The prophecy was real. They had not just crashed by accident. Or perhaps they had. But this world had been waiting for someone like them for a long, long time. The vault was no treasure. It was power. It was hope. And the guards above, the faceless conquerors, they must have known. That was why the beggar whispered. That was why the patrols searched. The aliens feared their masters, but they remembered. Somewhere deep inside, they remembered. The human's jaw tightened. They had a choice. Walk away, find food, cling to survival, alone and hopeless, or step into this prophecy and risk everything for strangers. The thought of leaving burned. The tunnels grew colder as the human pressed deeper into the earth. The coin's glow was their only light, casting long shadows that trembled along the stone walls. Every heartbeat echoed in the silence, steady, urgent, refusing to let them forget the weight of what they carried. The carvings they had seen still burned in their mind. A prophecy of an outsider, a key only they could use, a people crushed under the conquerors, waiting for someone who had never promised to come. The human clenched their jaw. They were a pilot, a soldier, a survivor, not a savior. Yet the coin burned against their skin as if disagreeing. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The walls glimmered faintly, covered with metal panels instead of stone. Wires ran like veins across the surface, leading toward a massive structure at the center. It rose like a sleeping giant, a machine of black iron and silver coils. Dust blanketed it, but beneath the age lay power, power waiting to wake. The coin pulsed violently. The humans stepped forward, boots crunching against ancient debris. They reached the heart of the chamber. A circular pedestal rose there, carved with the same glowing symbols as the coin. The message was clear. The coin was meant for this place, the vault. The humans swallowed hard, staring at the slot carved perfectly to fit the coin. Their hands trembled. If they placed it inside, the prophecy might come true. The enslaved people might rise again, their chains broken. But the risk was sharp and clear. The conquerors would notice. They would not let such power return without blood. The human turned, looking back at the dark tunnels they had walked. The silence pressed on them, heavier now, filled with imagined voices. What would happen if they did nothing? The aliens above would go on shuffling in silence, their eyes hollow, their spirits crushed. The guards would march endlessly, their boots striking stone, their whips ready for anyone who dared lift their head. Nothing would change. But if they acted, if they placed the coin, the city would awaken. They might die. The conquerors might strike down the rebellion before it could rise. The human's breath came heavy. They thought of the beggar, weak and shaking, forcing the coin into their hand. For your kind, only you can use it, it was not chance. The beggar had believed. Perhaps all the broken people above believed, though fear kept them silent. Perhaps they had been waiting for generations, hoping an outsider would come. The humans shut their eyes. Their ship was gone. Rescue would never arrive. Their survival alone meant nothing now. But survival was not the same as living. They opened their eyes and stepped forward, their fingers tightened around the coin. Then, slowly they set it into the pedestal. The chamber exploded with light. The coin sank into the slot, and at once the machine roared awake. Energy surged through the wires, racing across the walls, filling the chamber with a blinding glow. The air vibrated with power, deep and rumbling, shaking dust loose from the ceiling. The humans stumbled back, shielding their eyes. The vault had awakened. Above, far above in the ruined city, the towers trembled. Windows cracked as bursts of light shot up from the ground, spreading through the streets. The statue in the plaza glowed, its arms stretching wide as if alive. Symbols blazed across its body. The enslaved aliens stopped in their tracks. For the first time in centuries, their eyes widened, filled not with fear but with memory. Their chests rose, spines straightened. The silence broke as whispers spread through the crowd, soft at first, then louder, a sound of hope. But the conquerors noticed. Patrols halted. Helmets turned sharply. Red slits narrowed. The guards raised their staffs, energy crackling like thunder. Orders hissed through their comms, sharp and angry. The city was waking, and they would not allow it. In the chamber below, the machine's voice deepened. The walls vibrated, symbols burning brighter and brighter. A pulse spread outward from the core, racing into the earth itself. The human pressed their hands to the stone, teeth clenched as the energy rushed past. The coin's glow fused with the machine until they were one, the pedestal alive with fire. A screen unfolded before them, not of glass but of light. Strange alien words spilled across it, yet the human could read them as if they had always known the language. Systems restored, knowledge returning, freedom protocol engaged. The human's throat tightened. It was true. The prophecy was real, but the choice had been made. There was no going back. Above, chaos erupted. The enslaved shouted now, voices breaking centuries of silence. The sound filled the streets, echoing against the towers. Some reached for fallen weapons, some raised fists, others simply screamed with the joy of remembering their voices. The conquerors struck fast. Their staffs cracked with lightning, burning holes into the stone, sending bodies crashing down. But this time the people did not fall silent. They surged forward, overwhelming the guards with sheer numbers. The air burned with the clash of rebellion. In the chamber, the humans staggered to their feet. The machine's glow dimmed to a steady pulse. The vault now awake and alive. The coin's heat faded in their palm as it reappeared, sliding back into their hand as though it had never left. The pedestal's light flickered once more. The choice has been made. The humans stared at the words, heart pounding. Yes, the choice had been made, and the world above was already paying the price. Far overhead, in the highest tower of the city, a different alarm echoed. The conquerors' leaders stirred. Their armor gleamed black as obsidian, their voices cold as the void. The prophecy was moving, and the outsider had chosen to ignite it. They would respond with fire. The first scream of freedom tore through the streets. It was raw, loud, defiant, so alien and yet so human in spirit that it sent chills through the city. One voice sparked another, then another, until the silence shattered completely. The enslaved, once bowed and broken, now lifted their heads. They shouted, they cried, they roared. For the first time in centuries, the city lived. The conquerors struck back at once. Their black armor gleamed under the crimson sky, their staffs crackling with white energy. Bolts tore into the crowd, burning stone and flesh alike. Fear should have silenced the people again. But this time they did not kneel. This time they fought. From the chamber below, the human felt it all. The ground shook with battle, the machine's energy pulsing in rhythm with the chaos above. The coin burned in their hand, urging them upward. The prophecy was no longer a whisper carved in stone. It was alive, unfolding in real time. The human ran. Through the tunnels, through the cracked stairway, back into the light of the burning city. And what they saw stole their breath. The plaza blazed with fire and lightning. Guards clashed with waves of rebels, staffs cracking, chains breaking. Aliens who had once shuffled in silence now fought with fists with stolen weapons, with the fury of lifetimes spent in chains. The statue at the center of the square glowed like a beacon, its arms spread wide. Each pulse of its light filled the rebels with strength. Their thin bodies grew straight, their hollow eyes blazed bright again. It was as if the very memory of who they had been was returning with every breath. The human pushed into the chaos, coin clenched tight. A guard turned, its helmet locking onto the outsider. The red slit flared. The staff crackled with deadly energy. The human ducked as a bolt of lightning split the air where they had stood. The ground exploded, spraying stone shards. The pilot rolled, grabbed a broken length of metal from the rubble, and swung it with all their strength. The staff was faster. Sparks lashed against the makeshift weapon, burning it in two. The guard raised its staff again, ready to strike, but an alien rebel leapt forward. Thin, frail, yet burning with new strength, they slammed into the guard's side. Others followed, swarming the conqueror. Their fists and claws struck, their voices screamed, until the armored figure crashed to the ground beneath their weight. The humans staggered to their feet, heart pounding. They weren't alone, the people were fighting beside them. The battle spread across the city. The conquerors called in reinforcements. More patrols poured from the towers, their weapons flashing. The crimson sky darkened further as massive ships descended, their hulls black and jagged, their engines rumbling like thunder. One broke through the clouds directly above the plaza. Its underside glowed as cannons warmed to fire. The rebels froze for a heartbeat, their triumph trembling under the shadow of the warship. The human felt the coin sear against their palm. They lifted it, holding it high. The glow burst outward, brighter than the cannons above. The statue's light flared in answer. The machine in the depths pulsed again, sending a shockwave across the city. The warship shuddered. Its glow faltered. The cannons dimmed, their charge broken. A roar rose from the rebels. The human clenched the coin tighter, jaw set. Somehow the vault's power flowed through it, through them. Not enough to destroy the ships, but enough to shield, to stall, to give hope. The conquerors knew it too. The ship's hull cracked open, and new figures descended. Taller, stronger, armored in black and gold. Commanders. They hit the ground with the weight of falling stars. The rebels drew back, fear flashing in their eyes. These were no patrol guards. These were executioners. The commanders raised their weapons. The humans stepped forward. They had no armor, no staff, no shield. Only a coin and a broken length of metal. But when the nearest commander struck, the coin burned white-hot, flaring with a shield of light that caught the blow. The city burned through the night. Skies glowed red and white with fire. The towers shook and the air quaked with the clash of rebellion. For every guard that fell, another rose. For every rebel struck down, 10 more shouted in defiance. The battle was endless, but it was not hopeless. The vault's light pulsed across the city, flowing through the broken streets, through the bones of the ruins, through the people themselves. Each wave carried strength, memory, and unity. The enslaved no longer shuffled in silence. They fought with fury. They fought with purpose, and at the heart of it all stood the human. The coin burned in their hand, the heat so deep it felt carved into their skin now. Every breath was ragged, every muscle shaking, but still they fought. Not as a savior, not as a god, but as one fighter among many. The difference was only this: the coin had chosen them, and the world answered. By dawn, the conquerors faltered. Their commanders had fallen, their patrols scattered. The ships above hung motionless, their engines crippled by the vault's power. For the first time in living memory, the black banners of the conquerors trembled. The enslaved rose in waves. Across the city, across the towers, across the ruins, they surged with one voice: freedom. The conquerors withdrew. Not broken, not destroyed, but beaten back, forced to retreat beyond the edges of the sky. Their departure was not an end, but a beginning. A warning. They would return. But for now the city was theirs again. The humans stood at the center of the plaza, surrounded by thousands. The statue still glowed faintly, a symbol of what had been awakened. The people gathered close, their thin forms no longer bent, their eyes no longer hollow. One by one they bowed their heads, not in worship, not in submission, but in gratitude. The humans shook their head. "No," they whispered hoarsely. "Don't bow to me, stand," and they did. One by one they stood tall, straight-backed, unbroken, alive. The bow turned into a circle, the circle into a crowd, the crowd into a sea of defiant faces. The beggar was gone, lost to the chaos of the night, but the human felt them everywhere. In every voice, in every pair of eyes, in every breath of freedom. The prophecy had not been about one outsider saving a world. It had been about one spark lighting a fire. The human looked down at the coin. It was no longer glowing. The surface had cooled, the fire dimmed, but the weight remained. It was heavy now, not with power, but with history, a tool of awakening, a key of memory. A promise kept. The human closed their fist around it. They knew this was not the end. The conquerors would return with greater fury. And when they did, this world would need to be ready. But it would not face them alone, because the story of what had happened here, the beggar's coin, the uprising, the fire that lit the skies, would not be contained to this one city, or even this one planet. It would spread. The enslaved across the stars would hear it. Others under the conqueror's chains would whisper it in the dark. A story of hope. A story of defiance. A story that began with a single coin, given to a stranger. And when the conquerors returned, they would not face a broken world. They would face a united one. The human lifted the coin high one last time. The people raised their hands, their voices, their cries. The sound rolled across the ruins like thunder, louder than any cannon, brighter than any fire. The return had changed everything, not just for the city, not just for the planet, but for every world waiting for the fire to spread. Far above, beyond the red skies, the conqueror's fleet regrouped in the shadows of the void. Their leaders hissed in fury, their armor shining with cold light. The prophecy had been fulfilled. And now, they knew the truth. Humanity had returned to the stars, and nothing would ever be the same again. The city stood in silence after the storm. Smoke still curled from broken towers. Fires smoldered in the streets. The rebels, no, the free people now, worked together, pulling the wounded from the rubble, gathering their dead with reverence. The conquerors were gone, but their shadows lingered. The human walked through the plaza slowly, the coin resting cold in their palm. Once the square had been a place of chains and silence. Now it was filled with voices, soft, tired but alive. Everywhere the human looked, they saw change. Where there had been hollow eyes, there was now fire. Where there had been slumped shoulders, there was now strength. The fire of freedom burned. But fire spread, and far beyond the planet's skies, the conquerors would already be plotting their return. That night, under a sky bruised red and violet, the leaders of the freed people gathered. They were no longer slaves, but survivors. Elders, fighters, mothers, children. They gathered not in fear, but in decision. The human stood among them, coin clutched tight. A voice spoke from the crowd, deep and trembling with emotion. "You have lit the fire. You gave us back our voices. But what comes now?" The human hesitated. They were no ruler, no strategist, no prophet. They were a survivor who had been given a coin. But as they looked at the sea of faces, they realized that silence was no longer an option. "We prepare," the human said. Their voice was low, rough, but steady. "They will return. Not tomorrow, not next week. But soon, you know it. I know it. The coin was not given to end a war, it was given to start one." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Fear, yes, but also resolve. Another voice rose sharper. "But we are only one world." The human nodded. "Then we will not stay one world. Your freedom is not yours alone. Others live under their chains. Others are waiting for a spark. We will carry it to them." The coin pulsed faintly in their palm as if agreeing. In the days that followed, the city transformed, the people rebuilt, not with stone alone, but with purpose. They scavenged the conquerors' weapons, re-engineering them with the vault's ancient knowledge. They trained in secret courtyards and open plazas. Everywhere the human walked among them, not as a commander above, but as one among many. They taught survival, strategy, the art of fighting with what little one has. And in return, the people taught them the history of their world, the songs of resistance that had been forbidden, the stories whispered for centuries when silence had been law. The bond grew. Outsider and native, alone no more, but the conquerors were not idle. Far beyond the red skies, in the cold void, a fleet gathered. Not patrol ships, but warships. Not commanders, but lords. Their leaders' voices hissed across the stars. The prophecy moves. The outsider stirs them. If one world rises, others may follow. We will not allow it. And so they prepared their answer, not with silence but with annihilation. One evening, the human returned to the vault beneath the city. The chamber glowed faintly now, its machine humming like a sleeping giant. The pedestal where the coin had rested was dark, but the air still vibrated with energy. As they stepped closer, the coin burned hot again. Symbols shimmered across the walls. Not the end. The beginning. The human touched the stone. "Show me," they whispered. The symbols shifted, patterns unfolding like a map. Stars burned in the air before them, constellations stretching across the void. One after another, worlds flickered to life, each one marked in chains under the conqueror's grip. And then, faintly, sparks appeared. Small, weak, scattered, but there other uprisings. Other rebellions. Other fires waiting to be fed. The human's chest tightened. The beggar had known. The coin was never just for this city or this world. It was for all of them. A key, a call, a beacon. The human closed their fist. "Then we won't stop here." The vault's hum deepened as if in agreement. By the next dawn, the decision was made. The city would not wait for the conquerors to return with chains. The city would send its fire outward. The people gathered in the plaza once more. The statue glowed faintly above them, and at its base the human stood tall, the coin raised high. "This is not the end," they said. "This is the beginning. We are not only survivors. We are not only free. We are the spark, and we will not stop until every chain is broken." A roar answered. Thousands of voices united. The sound shook the broken towers, filled the sky and echoed across the stars. The fire had spread. Far away, in the darkness of the void, a conqueror lord stood before a star map. Their eyes burned like red suns as they watched the sparks spreading across the galaxy. They hissed, claws tightening. The outsiders lit the fire. Their voice was low, sharp, filled with venom. Then we will bring the storm. And so, as the people rebuilt, as the fire spread, as the human raised the coin to guide them, war stirred on the horizon. The prophecy was no longer a myth. It was alive, and the galaxy would soon learn what it meant when one human, stranded and forgotten, returned. Not alone, but carrying fire.